Hello, everybody. This is the Hunter and the Hippie podcast with Alan and Bree. Thank you so much for joining us today.
And on today's episode, we take a hard left turn about what we were originally supposed to talk about, and we get into all of the goodness that is life and the human experience. We talk about everything from it being Pride Month, as well as how much we love people and the way that we support people, and just trying to understand from our experiences how we live and love, and hopefully sharing that with all of you. And we hope you enjoy the episode.
And a huge thank you for listening and continuing to listen. If you know someone who would, enjoy these episodes, feel free to forward it along, and remember to subscribe and give us a review as well if you haven't already. And also a thank you to Brianna Cote for all of our photography, and Allison Band, Alllyson, for our intro and outro music. And enjoy the show.
Good afternoon, Bree.
Hey, Alan. How's it going?
It's going. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's been listening to, she's a girl and a friend. She might be a girlfriend. She's been listening to the podcast, and I don't listen to the show. Like, I talk it, we put it out in the universe, and that's it. Like, I don't listen to it. And so it's cool because she's starting from like episode 1. So it's fun talking about the things that we talked about back in 2021. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see if she makes it through all 40. This is episode 48. So it's pretty wild. Like,
yeah.
We had a little break for a minute, but we're back and doing this thing, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that we have we've talked about this before. I love that we have the recorded us. And she even mentioned it. She was like, it's really great because I can see you're not a liar, because right, like things that we've talked about in person, and then she listens to an episode and hears things. And she's like, these things have timestamps on them from years ago, and it's like, yeah, well, that's me.
And not to say you can't evolve or change your mind.
Right.
So, like, that I think is interesting because how often things change, or they gain more information or experience or knowledge, but they're too stubborn to change their opinion about it because of the ego and the fear that someone will be like, well, this is what you said 2 years ago. It's like, okay, I'm a human and I have different I'm sure I said different things 10 years ago than I'm saying today. But yeah.
And we have different experiences, right? Like we always say, we're talking based on our experiences, and as time passes, you have different experiences, and you learn new things, and you take in new information, and yeah, changing your mind isn't a good thing, but also having a solid foundation in what you believe in, and standing by that is also a good thing too, right?
Well, you know what, I think I mentioned this to you before, but JP Sears said something on a podcast, and it was, I look for like-hearted people, not like-minded people. And I think that is so significant, because we don't want to surround ourselves with like-minded people. So people who think exactly the way we do or have all the same opinions that we do. But people who come from that core, like those core values and the essence of them, their heart, the compassion, the kindness, the love is there. Because those are the people who will be open to a conversation if you're like-mindedness is different, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I really love that. And that hits on something I was going to post on social media, and I'm just going to talk about it here because I didn't have the words for it. And that is brilliant. Like-hearted versus like-minded. I was at the gym today, and I go to this gym. It's a 24-hour fitness, and they have TVs. And one
And
thing
patchouli.
and patchouli, they do have
And a
patchouli.
patchouli man.
um, uh, one of the things that, yeah, that patchouli man, man, I haven't seen him in a minute, thank God. But it was rough for a minute. He would walk by and it would, like, I think I said this, like, his scent was just like would hover where he was. He'd be gone and like it would still smell. Anyway, in Europe, like the gyms that I went to in Europe when I went to lift and like all places, like restaurants, there aren't TVs.
Mm-hmm.
There are no TVs. Like, you don't get a TV with the news being fucking blasted in your face. And I was at the gym today, and I always try to, right, I always walk for 10 minutes to start my workout, and the TVs are right there. And I try to avoid just even reading them and looking at them. I have my music in, or podcast, and the one thing I notice every time I'm in the gym, and right, like sometimes there's like a soap opera on one TV, and right, like something else, or like Maury and right ESPN, but there's always at least one news channel, usually two. Usually there's a CNN and an MSNBC, and every fucking time, the words on the TV, Trump, Trump, and it's like, holy fuck, we're still talking about this guy. Like, we're still talking about this guy. Are you fucking kidding me? Do you know how many times I talk about Trump in my normal life? None. Zero. Zilch. Absolutely nada. Right? And all I could think of, right? And this isn't about politics or Trump or what he did or what he didn't do. I don't give a fuck. And you shouldn't either. Not just you. Everyone, right? Like, there's other reasons to give a fuck, but I'm just so irritated by it because you're in the gym supposedly for your health, but your health is more than just working out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked a couple episodes ago about your health being your recovery, your health being what you eat, your health being your working out, your movement, and your health is also what you intake,
Mm-hmm.
and that being news. And the irony is we're there for our health, our physical health, and then have these stupid TVs that are feeding us garbage, feeding us absolute propaganda from whatever side, right? It just conveniently, because I'm in Boulder County, it's CNN and MSNBC on these TVs. One day I'm going to ask just to put Fox News on all the channels and see if anyone notices. But anyway, right? Like stop it. Stop consuming media. Stop consuming this, right? This goes back to our conscious consumption episode,
Mm-hmm.
right? Stop consuming shit that is bad for you, right? It's amazing to me that people still smoke cigarettes because we know it's bad for you and yet you still do it. And it's the same with media and all the nonsense we're being fed. And then I started to think about my trip to Europe, and I started to think about just my circle of friends and the people I'm surrounded by. And it goes right back to what you said, JP Sear said. I have no interest in, like, oh, you voted for this person. Oh, I can't be friends with. Oh, you have this view. I can't. No. I just want to be friends with like-hearted people. And when you really get down and dirty into things, like, there are really good fucking people on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And of all different points of views. And to think that, like, we care about, like, all this bullshit that, like, we're being told to care about. Right? Like, right now it's Pride Month, and my brother's gay, my uncle's gay, my aunts are gay. I don't care. Great. Right? Like, I support you. But this Pride Month, it's like this awareness of like, oh, they're being hated and blah 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 and all this shit. Everyone gets hated on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's disproportionate. It might be. But when I interact with people and I don't look at the news and I don't watch the bullshit that the media is telling me, I see people for just who they are. And I can tell you I don't run into people who hate gay people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't run into people who hate period. Right? And those people wouldn't last long in my circle anyway if they were.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it's just where you're being conditioned and told what you should care about, when really what you should care about is just being out in your community and interacting with people. And
I have something that has been on my mind, if you don't mind me interrupting really
shit,
quick.
fuck yeah, go for it.
I am very confused as to why I feel like the acronym and has gotten so long that it is actually no longer like honoring each, say, minority by it's like saying that representing this person is this, like, I don't know. Do you understand kind of what I'm saying? Like, it's LG.
So I had to look it up. That's
LGBTQIA plus. Okay.
2S plus.
Okay, so
hold on. Let's go through that. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer and or questioning, intersex, asexual, two-spirit,
mm-hmm.
and the countless affirmative ways in which people choose to identify.
Yes. So it's like saying, and in the core, we're all the same, like in a sense, right? But we have individual manifestations of ourselves, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like it deteriorates a bit of each of those identifications or whatever. And I don't know. I just kind of reflected on this recently, and I'm like, it's just so interesting that we're just tacking on and just grouping to, yeah. I wish I had better words to say, but yeah. It doesn't like bother me, but it kind of bothers, like, I just don't feel like that all falls into, like, then do we just say minority? Like, I don't,
why don't we just say everyone? Because when I read
it's
that,
everyone, but it's like, it's even that, like, transgender is not necessarily yeah.
When I read this and it says, and it ends with, and this is from, this specific definition is from portlandartmuseum.org. Okay, there's also Shortgrass Library System who has the same definition. Socialworkers.org that has the same
identifying
definition.
Identifying as a different gender is very different than being attracted to the same sex or being, and there's like also plenty of people who aren't necessarily like, I'm bisexual, but I'm just attracted to a person for who they are. And sometimes that's a male and sometimes that's a female. And I see that as very just different than, and maybe it's saying like pride is saying we're proud in who we are. That is not the like, but I don't even feel like gay. I don't feel like that's not the like, I don't, and it's, but I will say, like, I'm sure it is challenging to, it's more and more accepted, but also like our parents' generations are like less accepting of that. And so I can still
Yeah.
imagine it being a challenge to say, come out and say, hey, I like someone, I'm in love with someone of the
Yeah.
same sex.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see also maybe there's, yeah, I just, it really confuses me that there's just become this lump of a category.
So a few things. One, right, like I think it goes back to right your point. I think I've said this on a podcast about racism. Right, like racism goes away as generations die.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like we are all a little less racist as generations die,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the same, right? Like I have two really good friends who attend my yoga classes often, and they're married woman lesbian couple, and I don't think they talk to one of their mothers,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other one is like sort of still not accepting of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just like she just like puts up with it.
Mm-hmm.
And like hearing their stories, and like this is the thing, is like I connected with them, and like I got to hear their stories, and like you're no longer talking about, right, like you have to understand, like we are, one, we're taking the human aspect out of it, and then we're also demonizing humans, and when really the problem is in our homes, right? So it's yes, it's bigger, and there's a big thing, but it's literally in our homes. The people, the pain that people feel is in our homes. It's right in front of us. And having corporations fly a flag, or having people, get on board for a month to just make a buck, right? Because that's essentially what's happening. That's not the solution.
Yeah.
Right. The solution is death. I think that's the biggest, right? Like, and Steve Jobs talks about how death is the biggest proponent of change. Right. So as generations die out, right, we're going to become more and more okay. Like, again, like we don't give a fuck. Great. Love who you want to love. Be who you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I love you. So yeah, then as I read this definition, and I read the plus part of it, right? So like it's the acronym, and then the plus, and then it says the countless affirmative ways in which people choose to identify. So that includes straight people then too, right?
Yeah.
Right? If it is the countless ways someone identifies, straight is in that countless ways,
Mm-hmm.
right? And right, I think I understand what you're saying, right? We're just sort of lumping everyone into this acronym of like, hey, right now you're in here, and now like we have this plus, and it's anyone who wants to be in here,
Mm-hmm.
except for the straight people, right? Because we know that's what they're saying, right? When really it's just everyone. Like, just hey, don't be a dickhead, and be accepting of people, and love people for who they are, and maybe, right, like, I think understanding is like a double-edged sword, right? Because sometimes we're never going to understand someone's perspective or point of view, but it's not always about understanding, right?
We'll
It's
never
understanding
understand because we didn't walk the life
Yeah.
that in their shoes ever.
Yeah.
Even if it's similar stories, we have not lived their life, but we can accept them. We don't need to It's not about
Right.
understanding. It's about accepting and allowing.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I brought it up is because there was also this not controversy, but there was a lesbian dating app that started kicking off women who would not date a transgender woman. And so that's why I think about it. It's like a dating app kicking me off because I won't date someone who's shorter than 5'8". Like, we can have personal preferences in who we date. Like, if a lesbian woman wants to date a biological woman, like, why are you, like, I feel like it's not honoring and celebrating those individual preferences. Like, that person is not a bigot because they don't want to date a transgender woman, because they don't want to date someone who was a male and now a female. And so
Yeah.
that's where like I feel like we're trying to just make everything the same, um right, like civil rights action, but it's not like it's and then when we come back to like we talked about this episode of, I'm not saying I don't want to discriminate against transgender, but when it comes to sports, let's just give them their own category. Like we
Mm-hmm.
again as women had to fight to have our own division.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of let's like learn faster versus making it this thing where saying that we're the same, I think I guess it comes back to like the goal is not sameness.
Yeah.
Oneness is a conglomerate of the whole, and the whole is these individual pieces all fitting together. That's oneness. It's not saying everyone has to be the same. It's that everyone is an individual and we accept and allow and honor each of those individuals as they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
But
So I looked some things up because like people are gonna this is not what we were supposed to talk about today, but here we are.
we'll wrap it up.
People are gonna have what to say, and like we don't care, right? Like this is again our perspective and how we've seen our lives, and those who actually know us know that you and I are pretty fucking amazing people, and we love everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But the dating app that you're referencing is called Her, and it doesn't look like they kicked them off, but it looks like there was a global message sent out to all the users, essentially saying along the lines of what you're saying. I can't find the exact message, but I think there was like a "don't let the door hit you on the way out" type of thing.
Yeah, it's like exit our
Mm-hmm.
app if you're not
Right.
willing for this, and
Mm-hmm.
like it's
Um,
I don't know. I think
but
it's like
what's
people go
interesting,
on Facebook and they're like, if you don't believe my political views, then defriend me, and it's like,
yeah,
what?
what's interesting is apparently also in just searching this, uh, Twitter suspended Her, the dating app, account on Twitter because of because the way it was trying to, I don't know, essentially, hold on, what does this say?
Before or after Elon Musk took over?
Twitter suspends Her on Twitter for essentially for creating like exclusionary, right? Like essentially what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess here, so this is an acronym that I didn't know that I'm just learning about. So Her called out specifically TERFs, TERFs, and that's a person whose views on gender identity are considered hostile towards transgender people, or who oppose social and political policies designed to be inclusive of transgender people. But it says TERF is an acronym for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. Anyway,
Wow.
I'm just trying to provide information. Yeah, like I don't know enough about it to give an opinion.
Yeah.
I'm just, right, like we're talking and people are going to be like, bah. And you can reach out to us. You can tell us your opinion.
Yeah, just
you can hate us too. We don't care. But know that we love you and whatever. We're not hating on anyone, but like quit trying to, I really love what you say, right? Quit trying to take everyone's uniqueness away from themselves. Right? By lumping them into something. And then it just goes back to my point of turn off the fucking news. Stop it. Like being in Europe, no one talks about this shit.
Yeah.
No one talks about it. I didn't have one fucking conversation about any of this shit. It wasn't on the news. Like, again, there was no news.
Yeah.
Right? And then people say to me, like, oh, where do you get your news from? I interact with people. And then I make my I design my life based off of that.
Mm-hmm.
And if something's really important, someone posts something on social media, and then I dig a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to reference multiple sources. But, like, we need to stop this. Like, that's you want to talk about health? That's your health. Your health isn't going into a gym and watching CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or any of it. It's turning all that shit off and looking at the person next to you and sharing a smile and letting them know that they're welcome in the gym, and regardless of who they are, and if they're new, right, on January 1st, welcoming new people you see into the gym, letting them know that it's, yeah, your equipment's tied up. Who gives a shit? Right? Like, if we're really here for health, and not like I give a shit, like, it sucks sometimes waiting for equipment, but but like if we're here for health and we actually care about people, like, I don't know if I talked about this, but, like, we're so stuck on fucking demonizing everything.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to talk about it. Everything is bad. And that's bad. Right?
Well, the only person you're harming in that perspective is yourself to a certain degree. Like, you are absorbing all of the hatred that you're putting out to the world because you're the one who's living with it.
Yeah.
Like, you're the one who's those toxic thoughts, you're the one absorbing it. And sure, you might be like throwing an arrow at someone, and that's not cool, but ultimately you live with those thoughts, that toxicity every single day, and you're only harming yourself. Yeah. You're harming yourself the most. I'll say that because people do harm others, but you're doing yourself a disservice.
And you're attracting just more of that. Right? What you put out is what you attract,
and what you see. You're going to see everything from that way. Like, there's no way you will see any other, like, see a person for something other than the demon that you've made them. Mm-hmm. Like, I stay very ambiguous in my opinions in the yoga world because that's not the space for it. And I think the only place I'm not very, it's like we have conversations here that dive a little more into my opinions on things or my experiences or my questions. But there's so many people in the yoga world who are so vocal about their feelings or opinions on politics. Yeah. And they say it with the assumption that I agree with them.
Not just you, that everyone agrees with them.
Well, they probably don't say it to other people, I think especially, like it's like they say it to me and it's like they think that I just probably agree with them. And I'm like, I was telling you actually a month or so, I was like, I'm sick of it. Like, I don't care like about, not like that sounds bad, but I think I get tired of the political piece of it versus let's talk about platforms. Let's talk about that, let's dive into that in a conversation versus assumptive. And usually it's because they're bashing. Like, usually it's because they're taking a name calling approach to a certain political perspective. And that's my thing is like, if you're gonna bring it up, like, let's just talk about it as it is versus, oh, those people are a-holes or like a bunch of this, and I'm like, it's not productive whatsoever.
No. And so there are teachers that say it out loud to their students, that preach it online. Very famous yoga teachers. And like, I was so pissed. Like, so, and I saw, I'll even say her name, Amy Appoliti. She is like one of the, and I'm like saying her name, giving her more publicity than she deserves. But she's out there. You should vote for this person. You should do this. Right? Like, I was thinking about this the other day, not Amy, but specifically, but this in general. Right? When it's funny. So I say in my classes, hey, my yoga classes are for everyone. And I had a student who leans more to the conservative side, come talk to me. I was like, when people say that, usually it means everyone except for conservatives.
Yeah.
And I hear that. I understand that. But when I say it, I literally mean it's for everyone. And I had this thought that, right, like, so these teachers that are so hell-bent on, you have to vote this way. It doesn't matter what way. You have to vote this way, or you have to believe this. Here's the thing. If yoga is so awesome, and yoga is your path to tell people who they should vote for, and they should vote for these specific people, then yoga's going to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to say that. Just create a space for everyone, and then let yoga do what it does.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I know the answer, and you know the answer, and that's not what yoga is about. And that's not what yoga is meant to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yoga isn't meant to convince anyone of anything other than believing in themselves, right? And maybe getting a different fucking perspective and breathing, all right? But sure as shit, when I read the Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and any of the other archaic texts, they're not talking about the fucking Democrats and the Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they're talking about how to be a good person. And they're sharing stories of what a good person looks like. And they're sharing stories and fables of what bad people look like and how not to be.
Yeah. I mean, the Bhagavad Gita is about a warrior Arjuna and that he has to go to war.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the premise of it, is like it's on the cusp of war, like, you need to follow your dharma, you know, and so
Yes.
it's so yeah, whatever.
Amy at one point posted that her dharma, this is when I was still following her, posted that her dharma was to get people to vote for Biden and Kamala Harris. And I was just like, no, it's not. It absolutely is not.
So then her dharma is over. So
Over, and she should just perish.
Complete. She's done.
Right.
Her life's purpose has.
Yeah. Your dharma is not okay. Your dharma. Let's explain dharma. Should I pull out? Do you know a good definition offhand? It's your way of being.
Well, it's your purpose. It's like your purpose in life, essentially, like your calling.
Mm-hmm. So your calling isn't to get one person. It doesn't matter who the person is. It's to get one person elected to political office. I promise you that's not your dharma.
Here, I can read. I have the 4 desires, which has the 4.
Okay.
Moksha. All of it. Oh.
So, yeah. Like this went on way bigger, more big. What did Trump say?
Just says
since we're on Trump, what did he bigly? If this went on way more bigly of a tangent than
yeah, I know.
than it should have. But that's what the Hunter and the Hippie's about.
Yeah, right. We'll get to Europe.
Maybe.
I mean, it just basically is soul's purpose. That's
right.
Yeah. Soul's purpose. Oh.
Yeah. Which is not getting people into office politically.
Yeah. The longing for purpose, the drive to be and to become who you are meant to be. Dharma, in simple terms, is the drive to fulfill your potential. It is the inherent drive of every being to thrive. It is also the impulse.
Well, hold on. No, read that again. Read that sentence again.
It is the inherent drive of every being to thrive.
Chef kiss. Right? It is. Say it one more time. For just like really emphasize that.
It is the inherent drive of every being.
Every being.
To thrive.
It doesn't to thrive. It doesn't say every being, parentheses, except Trump supporters and people who believe this or believe that or believe this.
Mm-hmm.
every being deserves to thrive. And whenever people, it's funny when people like come at me about my opinions and like, which they're going to do on this episode, and that's fine. I immediately reference Daryl Davis. And if you don't know who Daryl Davis is, check out Daryl Davis on Joe Rogan. I shared this with a friend who's a lesbian. Her and I got into a conversation about all this type of stuff. And I was like, hey, you got to check out Daryl Davis on Joe Rogan. I'm going to pull up what episode. As soon as I said Joe, yeah, as soon as I said Joe Rogan, she was like, nope, I'm not listening to Joe Rogan. What? Like, you're missing Daryl Davis's story because of some nonsense you were fed on fucking the media about a guy who you don't even know. Mm-hmm. You don't even know him. But yet you hate him. Mm-hmm. Stop it. Stop. You look ridiculous. You really do. Episode 1419. Daryl Davis. If you don't know who Daryl Davis is, I'll give you a brief breakdown. Daryl Davis is he's a black jazz player, jazz and blues player, and he is responsible for. Hold on one second. So hold on. This is Wikipedia. Yes, I'm referencing Wikipedia, but whatever. Daryl Davis is an American R&B and blues musician and activist. His efforts to fight racism as an African American, he has engaged with members of the KKK and has convinced hundreds of Klansmen to leave and denounce the KKK. Not only that, when you got to really, I'll give you a little more than what this is saying because you got to listen to his story. Daryl Davis is the godfather to a child of I don't know if I'm saying this right, but like one of like the grand dragons.
What's the grand dragon?
It's like the highest being in the KKK.
Oh.
So like he yeah, like you got to hear a story. He like befriended this guy who was like really high up in the KKK. Mm-hmm. Eventually got him to denounce the KKK, and his child now has a godfather.
Yeah.
Who's a black musician because of it. And it's all about the way he approached it. Mm. His approach isn't what you're thinking, right? Yeah. Like what everyone thinks. His approach is not this raw, hate everyone. No, his approach is love everyone. Mm-hmm. And like, oh, you hate me? That's interesting. Why? And you got to hear his story. I'm not doing it any justice. Daryl Davis, Joe Rogan. If you don't like Joe Rogan, tough shit. Listen to the episode anyway. Or don't. I don't care. And, see what happens.
Yeah. But here, this will segue into Europe, maybe.
Maybe.
I will say, and this brings me back to a college paper I wrote, that every place has its history of division, right? And so, like, yes, this is America's history. It doesn't have to be our present, and it doesn't have to be our future. But there, in Ireland, the Catholics, in Northern Ireland, the Catholics and the Protestants. In Hungary, where my mom grew up, they were very nationalistic because the history was the borders of Hungary had changed so many times through various wars, and the Hungarians felt that their territory was far smaller than it should be when it was finally like declared, as its country. So they have a lot of negative feelings towards the surrounding countries because of that.
Yep. Italy, it exists with the North and the South. Like, it's division. Division's always a thing, and it's always been a thing. It always will be a thing. It doesn't mean that it's right, but it is part of society. It's just like my thoughts on the bully, right? Like, the bully is always going to exist. Am I for bullying? Absolutely not. But the bully is a key part of the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. But it's also like, I think us trying to erase history doesn't allow us to learn. Like, it's not about changing what's happened. We can't, right? It's like,
Yeah.
how can we move forward from what's happened and not continue to carry that narrative? And as you said, like, every generation, it becomes less and less. It dies off unless we don't allow it to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you're 100% right. But naturally, we're going to allow it to. The few that won't, they're not going to matter in time. Right?
But
Because what's right,
what's happening though is this is the fourth turning, and so there is the politicians or the elite they want this separation, but eventually it does then consolidate, and so and hopefully for the better, not in this hatred space, I guess you could say. I don't know. But the majority does not feel, act, or believe what is portrayed by the media and by politicians. But they highlight it to keep us in fear and feeling that that's the sentiment, because if we have the pressure that that's the sentiment, then they hope at some point we'll choose a side, but we don't have to choose a side.
we don't. There is no side. Like, they're just making it up. It's bullshit. It's literally made up. They're making up these sides and then making you choose, when really we're just humans. And we all have different perspectives and ways of being, and I think right, like, there's always going to be issues, but then there's also going to be, right, like, the good always comes forth. The good always wins. Right? Yes, there are times in history where bad surfaces, and it's like, oh, but like the good ends up winning. Right? Like, look at everything. Like, we are in the best times of our lives. We are in the best times of living history as we know it. Right? Outside of, what is it, like 11,700 years ago, where they think there was like some obliteration of the worlds, and like we had this crazy technology that was prior to us.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway,
dude, watch the
totally
History Channel. If you watch the
so
History Channel enough, you'll be like, we are actually far less advanced than past civilizations. I mean, it is wild what they've uncovered, and it's like, we ain't got nothing on them.
Yeah. But like specifically, it's like tied to this year of like 11,700 years ago, something like that. And like, there's all these like facts now that like are dating back to like exactly that date, and then like prior to that, there's nothing. And it's like, what the fuck happened, right? Like, where did all that information go? And like, that's why they think there was like some mass obliteration of the human race, and something happened, and
it'll happen again.
Like, so but now we're so far behind. Like, that's also like where they say like Atlantis was, and all that, but that's a whole different story. Now we're getting into conspiracy theory. We're covering it all today.
Well, you probably already sound like conspiracy theorists at this point.
You're so right. Or at least that's what someone's gonna call us.
Yeah.
But man, I just love people, and that's it. And I just want to meet people and support people, and it's funny. I rewatched Seinfeld.
Oh,
the whole series recently.
Yeah.
And there's an episode where Kramer is doing like the AIDS walk or something. I think it's like the AIDS walk, and they like give him a ribbon, and he's like, I don't want to wear the ribbon.
Yeah.
And they're like, what are you talking about? You have to wear the ribbon. And he's like, no, I don't have to wear the ribbon. I don't want to wear the ribbon. I'm not going to wear the ribbon.
Yeah.
And then like they get these other people and like, he won't wear the ribbon. And like, it turns into like all these people chasing him, like an angry mob with like pitchforks and torches, right? Just because he won't wear the ribbon.
Yeah.
And like, he didn't say, like, he's there supporting, right, this event, whatever. I think it was the AIDS walk or something.
Yeah.
I forget. But he's just like, I just don't want to wear the ribbon. And they're like, why won't you wear the ribbon?
Yeah. Did you see that meme about masks?
No.
There was a meme that took that clip. I think it was like with the mask. Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, wear the mask.
They replaced it with,
I don't
want to wear the mask.
Yeah. I don't know if it was about the mask or the vaccine. Like, it must have been, because it was like something that you could see, you know. Yeah. There was some meme, like, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're saying that, I was like thinking about that meme. Yeah. But
yeah, it was the AIDS walk. Kramer, I just pulled it up. So yeah, Kramer won't wear the AIDS ribbon. I think it's the red ribbon. Mm-hmm. And like they like corner him into a back alley and like beat him up. Like, I don't want to wear the ribbon. It doesn't mean like I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean anything. Right? Literally, life is meaningless. Yeah. It only means what you think it means.
Yeah.
So that's funny.
Yeah, it's like, why do I have to prove what I care about or believe it? You know, like,
yeah.
I don't know.
And to you?
Yeah.
Like, to you? Why do I have to prove it to you?
Yeah.
Like, and like you in general, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
If you know me, you'll know what I'm about.
And if I tell you, you still might not believe me. Like, how, right. Like, I think about all the, like,
that's the best.
The anti-movements that have, like, kind of cropped up, the anti-movements, and it's like, it doesn't even matter what I say, because if I don't meet your criteria, then I'm anti it, you know? It's like, I have to follow your way of these things to prove that, I just, that I care about humans.
Right.
But anyway, so
what is it? There's let me see if I can find it real quick. There's a quote, but I think it's like Marcus Aurelius or something. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Well, no. Oh, here. It's Epictetus. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Epictetus. That's who, like the Stoic. Mm. And it says, quote, "Do not make excuses about what is said about you, but answer, he was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned those alone." Mm. And I love that, because that's where I'm at in life. It's like, oh, you heard these things about me? They're true. Come talk to me. I'll give you a whole list of other things too.
Yeah.
Right? But you also, if you want to know the good shit too, like, ask me about that too, and I'll tell you about that as well. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, again, it goes back to leave the sound bites, leave the news, leave the media, and go have a human experience. Go talk to people. Mm-hmm. Right? Go engage with people and support your people. And create a space where people are welcome and authentic to who they are, regardless of what they believe, whether they agree with you or not.
I know that even when you create that space, not everyone might feel welcome, and that's not your fault.
Yeah. Like, I say this often in my yoga class. I say, my class is for everyone, but my class is not for everyone. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, sometimes, like, I the other day I had a guy walk out of my class. Mm-hmm. Later, dude. Sorry. Right? Like, he asked me to lower the music, and I told him no. Yeah. And I was like, no. Right? Like, you're the only one in here that wants me to lower it.
Well, and sorry. It's like, you know, like, it's not for him, you know? Yeah. It's...
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, I had someone, like a 4-week I am yoga therapy series online, and it was one of my previous students, and she, after the first one, she's like, it just gave me feedback on it and asked if she could, get a refund for the remainder of the series. And I was like, yeah, I know this style is not for everyone. Like, absolutely, and
Yeah.
it wasn't personal to me. It just it wasn't for her, or it wasn't for her at that time, whatever. And that's okay. It's like we have to do the work from our end, right? That's hard.
Timing. Yeah, I love that. Timing is everything. One of my friends, I was talking to one of my friends, and he was like, he's like, I think anyone could fall in love with anyone. It's just a matter of timing. And where you're at in life, the things that you're experiencing, right? Things just might not be aligned time-wise.
Yeah.
This has been great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we want to cover before we move to breath, journal prompt, and then talk about Europe on another episode?
Yeah. I like how even in your Google invite you wrote like Europe.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we're gonna talk about it.
No, we're talking about Europe.
I mean, I guess. Well, I don't know if we haven't been. I feel like this could be controversial episode. I feel like we haven't tapped into those in a while, so maybe it was overdue. I hope it's not controversial, because I hope people can listen to what we say with an open perspective, and again, and knowing that if we don't speak it, say it, see it the same way, doesn't mean our hearts are different. I think that we've mentioned this before, but probably sometime during all the lockdowns and crazy, again, where there was mask, no mask, vaccine, no vaccine, like all of that, like most people believed what they believed because they felt like that was the best for others. I think they really truly came from a perspective of like people's health and well-being, that they all wanted the same thing. We just all saw it, the way to get there, differently.
Yeah.
And so that's what I hope from this episode. What we offered was, if you don't agree with what we said, that it's not because we necessarily have like a different core. It's that we just see a different way of expressing and supporting love.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So
that's great.
Do you want to do journal prompt and then
journal
breath?
Prompt? Yeah,
Okay.
Journal prompt, then we'll end right on the breath. So grab your journal, and this was possibly a big one, right? Like write something, write about how you're feeling. If you watch the news, and like I know people, I have family that like you walk into their house and just the fucking news is on in the background, and like you're just being like fed into your subconscious. It's like through osmosis, like you're sleeping, and like it's like Zoolander, you're taking that shit in, right? Like, one, if you're that person, ask yourself why. Like, what are you getting? And just try to be real with yourself. What are you getting from this? Like immediately it's like, oh, I'm staying up to date. For what? How is this impacting your human experience? Write about that. How is this impacting your relationships with others? And if you don't watch the news, that's great. Like, did you ever watch the news? Because I was a big news watcher originally. I used to watch the news all the time. And then I stopped.
I watch the local news.
Yeah, local news is usually good. like cable news. It's all trash. And just write about that. And then if you have thoughts that you want to share with us, don't. We don't want to hear it. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Please share it with us. We do want to hear it. We like hearing other people's perspectives because that helps us, like we talked about at the beginning. Maybe we'll change our mind on something. Maybe you'll help us see a different thing that maybe we're not taking into consideration. But also don't provide sources that are complete, like skewed one direction or the other, and because that just makes you look silly when you do something like that.
That's not welcoming, everyone. Send it as long as you meet this criteria. Wow, jeez, Alan.
On the next episode, we'll talk about why Alan's a judgmental prick and how he discovered that in Europe.
Whoa.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a good story. It's a really good story.
Sweet.
Guys, we're all in this alone but together. Mm-hmm. And none of us know what we're doing, and we're all just trying to figure this shit out. So if you meet anyone that's like, no, I know what I'm doing, be very skeptical.
Yeah.
Really question that. And I don't know what I'm doing. And if you want to hate me, that's cool. I hope you don't. But whatever, right? Everyone's not going to like me. And know that I'm full of love and full of abundance. And write whatever you want in your journal about this episode. And share whatever you want with us via our email, which is linked in the podcast notes. You can find us on Instagram. Both of us are on Instagram. Also in our Instagram, in our show notes. Yeah, and most of you have other ways to reach us as well. So I'll turn it over to Brie and let her end with some amazing breath. But first, she's going to reread that last quote from the book about Dharma.
I am.
I'm gonna make her. Yeah, you are.
Oh gosh.
I really want to emphasize this. Like, it's good. It's good. It's like I don't remember. It's every being must thrive or something like that.
Yeah, I have to find the Dharma chapter now. And this is from the 4 Desires by Rod Stryker.
4 Desires.
Yeah.
By Rod Stryker.
And that's Stryker. It's cool. It has a little bit of. It has like activities you can do throughout it to reflect on the 4 desires, which are Dharma, Artha, Moksha, and why am I blanking? I'm trying to find the page. Kama, that's right. Okay, so I don't know where that was. Oh, okay. Yes. In simple terms, okay. It is the inherent drive of every being to thrive. Dharma, in simple terms, is the drive to fulfill your potential. So, for your breath, as always, eyes open, but maybe softening the gaze, softening your focus, or widening your focus. Or if it's available to close your eyes, close your eyes. And take a deep inhale, allowing the belly to expand. And then the chest. And then a long, slow, steady stream as you breathe out. Again, breathing in as the belly expands, and then the chest, and exhale completely. And expand your intention to the entirety of your body. And notice an area that might feel dense or restricted or tight. And continue to breathe as you just observe what you feel in this area. Now shift your attention to an area of the body that feels open or soft or relaxed. And simply breathe with what you feel here. And then expand attention back to the whole body. And breathe with the polarities, the natural polarities that exist within you. And breathe with the natural polarities that exist around you. That these polarities make up the whole. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes if they're closed. And taking your wholeness and this wholeness with you. Right, so often when we deny the wholeness around us, it's because we're denying the wholeness within us. And you're whole just the way you are. And again, if your eyes are closed, you can slowly open them.
Thanks, Bree.
Yeah.
All right. I hope everyone enjoyed the episode. Stay tuned for hopefully the next episode where I talk about my trip to Europe.
We're just like building the anticipation.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, it was great talking with you.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya.